No, I'm not. No, I can't be inconsistent. I can't be dishonest and a hypocrite. I've said from the outset that I didn't like the fight. I felt it was a fight built upon other people's legacies. I understand what it's turned into. I understand the furore and the interest, and I understand the point that Eddie Hearn's making. If you ask Frank Warren what he thinks of it, he doesn't think much of it. People might say that's because he's not involved in it. But I would like to see Conor Benn fighting at 147 and winning a world title in that weight class. And I'd like Eubank, who I think is a brilliant showman and a great raconteur, fighting for a world title at 160 or 168. Not this situation, but each to their own. I don't know. Where are you on it?
Well, where are you on it?
Well, it's going to be a massive event.
Simon Jordan takes off the veil on this so-called super fight, calling it out as nothing more than a money-making spectacle, banking on the fame of two well-known names. He doesn't mince words, stating that this matchup has no real sporting value and is all about capitalizing on hype. From the very start, he made it clear this has nothing to do with merit and everything to do with profit. According to Jordan, Conor Benn should be focusing on fighting at 147, aiming for a legitimate world title, instead of chasing headlines with catchweight bouts. As for Chris Eubank Jr., while he's certainly a crowd puller, Jordan believes he should be fighting in his true weight class, 160 or 168, rather than getting involved in gimmicky, pay-per-view-driven showdowns. This event, he argues, isn't about boxing glory, it's about exploiting fans' nostalgia. Even Frank Warren, a seasoned promoter, sees past the illusion. While fans are sold an idea of a major event, the sport itself is being cheapened. The harsh reality is that while this event may be massive, it's built on little more than spectacle. The question to ask is whether this is the direction boxing should take, or if it's time to push for something with real substance.
Eubank fight and win a world title at 147. I would like to see, Conor Benn. I would like to see Eubank stay at, I think 160 is hurting him now. I would like to see him fight at 168. But the appeal of this fight is massive. It's something that, I mean, it's even got my attention. Like, and I see myself as a boxing purist, but I can't wait.
On the flip side, Carl Frampton dives straight into the madness, acknowledging that this fight doesn't make sense, but for some reason, it just does. Frampton agrees with Simon Jordan that Conor Benn's true focus should be at 147, chasing a real world title. As for Eubank Jr., Frampton is concerned about the toll it's taking on his body at 160, suggesting it's no longer his natural weight. He thinks moving up to 168 would allow Eubank to fight more comfortably, like the powerhouse he is. But here's the twist: despite understanding all this, Frampton can't seem to look away from the spectacle. The hype has drawn him in, and he's not trying to resist. As a boxing enthusiast, he recognizes that this fight goes against the grain of traditional matchmaking. Yet the raw energy, the personal stakes, and the deep-rooted family rivalries make it impossible to ignore. It's wrong on paper, but there's something electrifying about it. The kind of fight that defies logic and still manages to pack arenas. The real kicker is that this chaotic mess is exactly what fans seem to want, and that speaks volumes. Drop your thoughts below and give the video a thumbs up.
But I think with Chris, this is purely business. This is purely business. I don't think he quite likes him very much.
No.
But I'm telling you now, it's a good thing that Conor's in Spain. Because imagine them two bumping into each other on London High Street on a Sunday afternoon.
We don't need that, do we?
No one needs that, no one wants it, but it's inevitable. So you literally have to navigate your way through these camps and keep these two boys away from each other, because
keep the lid on.
I've been there with this kind of animosity, and I've been there with this kind of domestic rivalry. It eats away at you. It's not nice.
No.
It literally eats away at you. It's on your mind daily. And you just... It gets to it's an intense...
Tony Bellew doesn't hold back when dissecting the truth behind the Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn fight, and he's blunt about it. According to Bellew, this isn't just another boxing rivalry, it's a ticking time bomb. The animosity between these two has been brewing for years, and now it's boiling over into what looks like a street fight masquerading as a boxing match. Bellew doesn't see this as a technical showdown between fighters, but rather as two men consumed by personal hatred, eager to settle old scores with violence. Having been through similar situations himself, Bellew understands how quickly anger can take over, derailing a fighter's game plan and turning everything into a chaotic mess. That's his biggest concern. If Eubank and Benn encounter each other outside the ring, Bellew fears it could spiral into something uncontrollable. The real threat, he believes, is that the intensity of the emotions could break through the confines of the ring itself. This isn't just about boxing, it's emotional warfare. The big question now is whether they can keep their composure long enough to make it to the fight, or if their fury will take over before the bell even rings.
I see Conor Benn knocking out Chris Eubank Jr. That's what I see. And don't ask me why. Because really and truly, when things are foregone conclusions, they're never foregone. Until they really are foregone. So, yeah.
And there's a lot of people with their opinions on the weight clause, right? The rehydration clause.
I'm not worried about the rehydration clause or anything else. I just know at the time of when Chris Eubank was born, the rivalry with him and with his dad and Nigel Benn wasn't deeply insipid in his father's genes. At the time of Nigel Benn wife conceiving Conor, the hatred was deep rooted in Nigel Benn, and it's been passed on to the son. And people think, well, that doesn't win fights and the size and this and that. I'm telling you that there's a different kind of spite or somebody willing to go the extra mile because of that hatred. Otherwise, Chris Eubank Jr. will soundly outpoint. But I just think I could see something crazy like that happening.
On the other hand, Spencer Farron doesn't hesitate to make a bold prediction, confidently stating that Conor Benn will knock Chris Eubank Jr. out cold. For Farron, this fight isn't about strategy, weight clauses, or any rehydration issues that have caused a stir. It's far deeper than that. He sees it as a fight cursed by history, an inherited animosity that's been passed down through the generations. Farron argues that the bad blood between their fathers, Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr., didn't just fade away in the 90s, it's been carried forward like a curse, deeply embedded in Conor's very essence. That kind of hatred, Farron believes, changes a fighter. It's not about technique or size. It's about rage, obsession, and a desire to finish what your family started. While Farron acknowledges that Eubank Jr. is a slick and dangerous fighter, his gut tells him that this could all end in total chaos, a shocking knockout fueled by decades of resentment. And really, who can rule that out when every punch is driven by such intense hatred?
In the pudding that says Conor Benn punches harder than me at 154. He's had 2 fights at 154 and hasn't had a knockdown, never mind anything else. So, yeah, if Conor wants to portray that and draw confidence from that and try and plant a seed in Chris's head, then so be it. But like I said, I'll stand on what I say. I've always been a better fighter than Conor Benn. I'm a better fighter than Conor Benn now.
Meanwhile, Liam Smith doesn't hold back, delivering a harsh reality check. He goes after Conor Benn with no mercy, dismantling any notion that Benn is a harder hitter. To Smith, it's all just noise-empty hype with no real backing. He laughs off the idea that Benn's power is anything to be impressed by, especially since he's only had 2 fights at a higher weight, and both were just easy points wins. On the other hand, Smith has fought real threats, endured grueling battles, and earned his reputation the tough way. But here's where things really heat up. Smith believes Benn is faking it, pretending to be confident, putting on a show, and desperately pushing a version of himself that hasn't yet faced real competition. Smith's not just tossing out insults. He's challenging the entire narrative surrounding Benn. He sees him as an overrated showman who's in over his head. The burning question now is, when the first punch lands, will Benn crack under the pressure, or will he shock everyone? The moment of truth is fast approaching, and Smith is betting on a brutal revelation.
I felt sorry for Junior because he is a 34-year-old man at the time. He wants his own thing. His father is always going to be the centre of attention.
Yeah.
I think he's right to make his own decisions.
Simon, I see exactly what you're saying, because Nigel has stood back from Conor's career, and Chris Senior was right in the front at the beginning. And I think it's great that Junior is walking his own path.
So do I.
However, they have had horrendous tragedy.
No one saw this coming. Steve Collins has just exposed the darkest aspects of Chris Eubank Jr.'s career, uncovering the turmoil that's been holding him back for years. This isn't just about fighting in the ring. It's about identity, legacy, and a toxic family dynamic that's been simmering beneath the surface. While Nigel Benn stepped aside to let his son rise, Eubank Sr. has remained a constant presence, casting a shadow over every moment of Junior's ascent, turning his career into something resembling a strange spectacle. Collins didn't just bring it up, he laid it all bare, revealing that behind the bravado, Junior has been suffocating, caught between the pressure to prove himself and the struggle to escape his father's manufactured image. What's more, Collins didn't shy away from discussing the painful losses and personal hardships that have shaken the Eubank family, suggesting that it's more than just poor public relations, it's real emotional turmoil. The big question now is whether Junior can finally break free from the mask and carve out his own path, or if he'll always remain trapped in his father's unconventional narrative.
I think Chris is leaps and bounds ahead of Conor. His experience, the guys he's been in with, take away the weight, because, Chris is obviously going to be disadvantaged in there with the weight as well. But just ability, boxing skill set is on a completely different level. So
on the other hand, Harlem Eubank isn't holding back in his defense of his cousin. He's fully convinced that Chris Eubank Jr. is miles ahead of Conor Benn, and it goes beyond just size and power. While the media and fans fixate on the weight difference, Harlem believes the true gap lies in their boxing intelligence, experience, and adaptability inside the ring. Chris has faced some of the toughest opponents in the sport, honing his skills under the brightest spotlights. Conor Benn, on the other hand, hasn't yet faced that caliber of competition. His knockout power is undeniable, but Harlem argues that power alone won't be enough against a seasoned, tactical fighter like Chris. While Harlem acknowledges that Chris may lose some size due to the weight cut, he's confident that Chris's wealth of experience and superior boxing IQ will give him the edge over Benn. It's not about raw strength, it's about who can think on their feet, adjust to pressure, and control the pace of the fight. Harlem is certain that Benn's lack of experience against elite fighters will ultimately be his downfall when he faces Chris, who possesses all the tools to outsmart him in every round.
Eubank Jr., he's stylish and he's skillful. And if that Liam Smith defeat, which worries me a bit for Chris, if that's sort of part of the past, that the rematch was emphatic for Eubank Jr., but it wasn't Liam's night really, and he had an injury going into it. So that defeat that Eubank suffered worries me a bit, but he's fought in better company, and Conor Benn's got it all to prove. But if there's one guy that wants it more, it's Conor Benn. There's no doubt about that.
On the other hand, Adam Smith has caused a stir in the boxing world with his brutally honest evaluation of Chris Eubank Jr. and the uncertain path he's on. There's no denying Eubank Jr.'s incredible talent. His skill, charisma, and flair are all evident, and he has the ability to dominate anyone in the ring. However, Smith didn't shy away from highlighting a significant blemish on Eubank Jr.'s record, the devastating loss to Liam Smith. That defeat continues to cast a shadow over his career, with lingering doubts about his mental and physical toughness. While the rematch was viewed as a chance for Eubank Jr. to redeem himself, Smith pointed out that it wasn't entirely fair, given that Smith was fighting with an injury. Despite Eubank Jr.'s solid track record, that loss still haunts him, exposing weaknesses. When Smith shifts his focus to Conor Benn, he doesn't hold back either. Benn has the hunger, ambition, and fire to prove himself as a top fighter. The real question now is whether Eubank Jr. can recover from that painful loss, or if Benn will seize this opportunity and show that he's the true superior fighter in this rivalry.
Repeat there, maybe that's what Eubank Jr. is thinking, that Conor Benn is going to come out and leave everything in those first 3 or 4 rounds, and if Chris is still there, it could be trouble for Conor, but Conor could knock him out. Barry could be right.
Adam Smith has just turned up the heat with a bold prediction for the highly anticipated clash between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. On one side, Eubank Jr. is banking on the idea that Benn will come out aggressively in the early rounds, throwing everything he's got with no concern for the consequences. The truth is, if Eubank Jr. can weather those first explosive moments, it could spell trouble for Benn, who might burn out and expose his weaknesses. However, there's more to consider. Smith doesn't downplay the danger at all. Benn's knockout power is real, and if he catches Eubank Jr. at just the right moment, it could be lights out. Smith also suggests that Barry's thoughts on Benn's relentless aggression might hold some truth, as it's a characteristic that could overwhelm Eubank Jr. The big question now is, can Eubank Jr. survive Benn's early onslaught and turn the fight in his favor, or will Benn's power prove to be too much for him to handle? The stakes are higher than ever, and this fight could truly go either way.
No, but there's no honour in smacking someone with an egg. Shouldn't have happened. How do you think the fight's going to play out?
I'm backing Conor Benn. I know Conor, spoke to him a few times. Always been a top bloke to me. His dad's a top bloke, his dad's a legend, and I'll be backing him. But it's going to be difficult, as he's already alluded to, the two weight divisions coming up, but it'll also be difficult for Eubank to stay within that hydration clause, I think it is. So it's all to play for both men.
Meanwhile, Johnny Fisher isn't holding back, throwing his full support behind Conor Benn with some strong reasons to back him up. Benn isn't just another fighter, he's the son of a boxing icon, carrying a legacy that commands respect. Fisher, who's had numerous in-depth conversations with Benn, firmly believes that Benn's skill, determination, and toughness are second to none. But here's the catch, this fight won't be easy. Benn is stepping up 2 weight classes, a challenge he fully acknowledges and has embraced. The real question is whether Eubank Jr. can handle the pressure of the hydration clause. Fisher sees this as a significant hurdle that could shake Eubank to his core and potentially alter the outcome of the fight. This isn't just another boxing match. It's an opportunity for both men to secure their place in boxing history. Benn has the heart, passion, and raw talent to push through, but it's going to be a brutal battle from the opening bell. Every moment will matter. The stakes couldn't be higher. So, who will rise to the challenge? And who will falter under the pressure? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.